Behind the gates of a once vibrant London home, George Michael's abandoned house still whispers stories of a superstar who lived life at the highest level. Spacious gardens, elegant rooms, and a view over the Thames now sit in silence, frozen in time since his passing. Yet this house is only the beginning. Today, we step inside the world he built. From multi-million-dollar mansions to a fortune that continues to grow, and the lifestyle of a man who defined an era. But before we explore his wealth and legacy, let's revisit the journey that made George Michael a global icon. George Michael, born Georgios Kyriakos Panagiotou on June 25, 1963, in East Finchley, London, carried within him a cultural mix that would later define his artistry. His father, Kyriakos Jack Panagiotou, was a Greek Cypriot restaurateur who had left his homeland in the 1950s with nothing but ambition and determination. His mother, Leslie Angold, was an English dancer whose elegance and artistic sensibility balanced out the family's entrepreneurial grit. From this union, George inherited discipline, flair, and a hunger to create. Alongside his two sisters, Yoda and Melanie, he grew up in a household where tradition and creativity coexisted. Melanie, his younger sister, remained a steady presence throughout his life until her passing in 2019, a loss that echoed the family tragedies that marked his story. As a boy, George was fascinated with sound. At Rowe Green Junior School and later Kingsbury High School, he was not the loudest kid in class, but he had a quiet intensity about him. Music, more than anything, was his refuge. It was at Bushy Meads School, however, that destiny knocked on his door. There, he met Andrew Ridgeley, a spirited teenager who shared his obsession with pop, rhythm, and the dream of making it big. The bond was instant, and from it, Wham was born. Formed in 1981, Wham became the embodiment of youthful exuberance. Their debut album, Fantastic, 1983, introduced them to the world with tracks like Young Guns and Club Tropicana. But it was their second album, Make It Big, 1984, that launched them into the stratosphere. Songs such as Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, Freedom, and Everything She Wants electrified the airwaves. And then came Careless Whisper, co-written by Michael. A ballad so powerful it topped charts in over 20 countries, cementing George's name in music history. Suddenly, two boys with big hair and even bigger dreams were global icons. But George was restless. Beneath the bright colors and upbeat pop, he longed for deeper expression. When Wham disbanded amicably in 1986, it was not the end, but the beginning of a solo career that would showcase his maturity. In 1987, he released Faith. Gone was the playful teen idol. In his place stood a confident artist unafraid to push cultural boundaries. I Want Your Sex caused controversy, but it also announced that George Michael was here to challenge norms. The album sold over 25 million copies and remains one of the most successful debuts in music history. Tracks like Father Figure and One More Try proved he could marry pop appeal with soulful vulnerability. Over the years, George evolved from pop darling to respected global superstar. He sold over 115 million records worldwide, more than 80 million as a solo act. He wasn't just another chart-topping artist, he was a craftsman of timeless songs that cut across generations. Whether it was the Christmas favorite Last Christmas or the deeply personal Jesus to a Child, Michael had an uncanny ability to make the personal feel universal. Even after his passing, his catalog continues to generate millions annually, proving that his work carries a value beyond time. His influence was recognized in many ways, being the most played artist on British radio between 1984 and 2004, earning a spot on Billboard's Greatest Hot 100 Artists of All Time. And finally, his 2023 induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. All of this, the boy from East Finchley, the Wham phenomenon, the solo superstar, and the savvy businessman, laid the foundation for a life of immense wealth and equally immense contradictions. For every triumph on stage, there were shadows in his personal world. And nowhere do those shadows become more visible than in the story of his homes, places of beauty, luxury, but also silence. Abandoned house in North London. For someone like George Michael, real estate was never just about bricks and mortar. It was about creating sanctuaries that matched his music. Intimate, emotional, and unforgettable. Among the many properties he owned, one of the most intriguing is the house in North London that for years stood in silence after his passing. Once a vibrant residence in one of the city's most sought-after neighborhoods, it became a haunting reminder of the star's absence. From the outside, the home still carries an understated elegance. Set on a quiet street, it is framed by tall hedges and mature trees, giving it privacy while keeping the charm of suburban London. But step through the front door and the story deepens. The layout whispers of a lifestyle once filled with warmth and creativity. The first floor opens with two spacious reception rooms, one of which extends into a winter garden. A glassy space that looks out over the rear garden and, in the distance, offers sweeping views of the Thames. It's easy to imagine George sitting here with a cup of tea, sketching lyrics or humming melodies while the light poured in. The same floor also houses a cozy bedroom and a fully fitted kitchen, practical yet inviting, designed for both function and intimacy. This outdoor connection made the home feel alive, linking the quiet interiors to the greenery outside. And then, up on the second floor, the crown jewel, a master bedroom with an ensuite bathroom. Private, serene, and perfectly designed for retreat, it reflected George's desire for balance between public spectacle and personal stillness. Though empty for years, the house hasn't lost its soul. Spacious, full of light, and blessed with remarkable views, it still holds a sense of potential, waiting, perhaps, for someone new to write the next chapter within its walls. Much like his songs, the house seems timeless, resonating even in silence. Yet this North London property was only a glimpse into George Michael's world of real estate. Just a few miles away stood the crown jewel of his portfolio, a sprawling mansion in Highgate, the true centerpiece of his legacy in London. Highgate Mansion in North London worth £12 million. More than just a residence, it was a home that embodied George Michael's taste for elegance, his desire for seclusion, and his need for a space that could balance public glamour with private peace. Approaching the mansion, the sense of arrival is undeniable. Set back from the road, the home is shielded by towering hedges and mature trees that keep the world at bay. A sweeping driveway leads to a double garage, with off-street parking for 3 cars. A subtle but practical detail for a man who valued both convenience and discretion. The exterior is classically British, its proportions and symmetry speaking to tradition, while inside, the spaces unfold with an effortless sense of modernity. The ground floor welcomes visitors with a spacious entrance hall, the kind of foyer that immediately signals refinement. From there, the house expands into a stunning 25-foot living and dining room, a grand yet comfortable space that seamlessly combines intimacy with grandeur. Whether it was a quiet dinner with close friends or a larger gathering, the room was designed to adapt. Adjacent to it lies a second living room, a TV room perfect for private screenings, and a study that reflects George's need for a personal retreat, a place to read, write, or simply withdraw from the noise of the outside world. The heart of the ground floor is undoubtedly the kitchen. Spacious, bright, and equipped with a separate utility dining area, it was tailored for entertaining. You can imagine George hosting friends, music industry colleagues, or simply enjoying a quiet Sunday breakfast with family. The layout of the ground floor alone tells you this was a home designed not just to impress, but to be lived in fully. Moving upstairs, the first floor features 5 double bedrooms, each with its own personality. 4 bathrooms, 3 of them en suite, provided comfort and luxury for guests and family members alike. Each bedroom opened up to leafy views of the surrounding gardens, ensuring that even within one of London's busiest districts, tranquility was never far away. But the true sanctuary lies at the very top. The entire second floor is devoted to the master bedroom suite, a private world within a world. This retreat combined space, light, and luxury in a way that perfectly mirrored Michael's personality. Understated, but deeply indulgent. From the walk-in wardrobes to the spa-like bathroom, everything about this suite whispered privacy and peace. For a man who spent his career in the blinding spotlight, this was where he could finally escape and just be himself. The surrounding garden is another highlight. Well screened by mature trees and shrubs, the expansive lawn was an oasis of calm. Here, the sounds of London gave way to birdsong, and the manicured landscaping offered both beauty and seclusion. In many ways, the garden was a reflection of Michael himself, carefully maintained, outwardly serene, but with layers of depth waiting to be discovered. Highgate House was not just a piece of prime London real estate. It was a statement about who George Michael had become. From the boy growing up in East Finchley to the global superstar who sold over 115 million records, this mansion symbolized his journey, a blend of public success and private sanctuary. It was also a deeply personal space. Upon his passing, Michael left the mansion to his older sister Melanie, a gesture that underscored the importance of family ties even in the midst of fame. Leaving behind the grandeur of Highgate Mansion, it becomes clear that such a property could only be maintained by a man whose financial success was as spectacular as his music career. Income and net worth. Estimated $200 million at the time of his death in 2016. His fortune was the result of multiple income streams, record-breaking sales, sold-out tours, royalties that never stopped flowing. George Michael's catalog is the bedrock of his wealth. Over 115 million records sold worldwide, including 80 million as a solo artist and another 30 million with Wham, secured his place among the world's best-selling musicians. His solo debut, Faith Alone, moved over 25 million copies, generating a fortune in album sales and royalties. Even today, his hits remain cultural touchstones. Songs like Careless Whisper, Faith, and especially Last Christmas have proven to be evergreen. In fact, Last Christmas alone still generates between $500,000 to $1 million annually, every holiday season. If records were his foundation, live performances were the accelerant. Touring was Michael's most significant source of active income, with his shows attracting audiences across continents. His legendary 25 Live tour, 2006 to 2008, alone generated more than $48.5 million, $97 million at the time, with later reports suggesting the true figure exceeded $100 million. Earlier tours such as Faith Tour, 1988 to 1989, and Cover to Cover Tour, 1991, also grossed millions, capitalizing on his ability to fill stadiums from North America to Europe. What makes George Michael's financial story particularly striking is how his fortune continues to grow even after his passing. His music catalog is a licensing goldmine, with hits constantly used in films, advertisements, and media placements. In 2023, his estate generated an estimated $20.6 million in publishing revenue, another $2.5 million from recording royalties, and $600,000 from other sources, roughly $55,000 every single day. For comparison, that's more daily revenue than many working artists make in a year. He did, however, create business structures to manage and distribute his fortune. Companies like Nobby's Hobbies Holdings and Big Jeff Overseas were instrumental in funneling tour income and publishing revenues efficiently. Reports suggest he paid himself upwards of $12.3 million from one and $14.8 million from another in certain years. These ventures weren't headline-grabbing investments, but were savvy mechanisms that helped secure and protect his wealth. Yet for George Michael, wealth was never the entire story. His fortune was vast, but his generosity was even greater. Because behind the headlines about millions earned and mansions owned, there was also a man who gave much of it away, quietly, selflessly, and without seeking recognition. Philanthropy. His charitable journey began early in his career. In November 1984, Michael joined a constellation of British and Irish stars to form Band Aid, lending his voice to the legendary charity single "Do They Know It's Christmas?" to raise money for famine relief in Ethiopia. 2 years later, he took the stage at the Prince's Trust charity concert at Wembley Arena, performing Every Time You Go Away with Paul Young, and in 1988, he appeared again at Wembley for Nelson Mandela's 70th birthday tribute, where his rendition of Sexual Healing resonated with both music lovers and activists alike. These moments showed that Michael understood the power of music not just as entertainment, but as a force for social change. As the 1990s unfolded, his activism grew bolder. A vocal advocate for LGBT rights and a committed supporter of HIV/AIDS charities, Michael ensured that the proceeds from his 1991 single, "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me," were split among 10 different organizations, focusing on children, education, and AIDS relief. He was also a patron of the Elton John AIDS Foundation, regularly lending both his resources and his voice to campaigns that battled stigma and provided real help for those affected. When he wore a red ribbon at the Freddie Mercury tribute concert in 1992, it wasn't just a symbol, it was a personal statement of solidarity. He also played a key role in the charity compilation Red Hot Plus Dance, contributing original songs and rallying other major stars like Madonna and Seal to the cause. His generosity was not confined to concerts or records. In 2003, he appeared on the UK version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, partnering with Ronan Keating and winning £32,000 for charity, after a tense moment cost them a larger sum. That same year, he became involved in a $20 million fundraising campaign for the Rainbow Trust, which supported terminally ill children. Speaking about the initiative, Michael said, "Loss is incredibly difficult. I have great admiration for people who have really had to deal with the pain of losing a child." His words reflected not only empathy, but a personal connection to human suffering. Perhaps what touched fans the most, however, was the revelation after his death of the many acts of kindness he performed in secret. Organizations like Childline, the Terrence Higgins Trust, and Macmillan Cancer Support disclosed that Michael had quietly donated millions over the years. Beyond institutions, he also reached out to individuals in need. After watching a contestant on Deal or No Deal reveal she needed £15,000 to fund IVF treatment, Michael quietly paid for it, never seeking recognition. On another occasion, he tipped a student nurse working in a bar £5,000 upon learning she was struggling with debt. These acts painted the portrait of a man who understood both the weight of wealth and the responsibility of compassion. But to fully understand the man behind the generosity, we need to step away from the stage and the headlines and look into his personal life, the relationships, struggles, and private world that defined George Michael beyond the spotlight. Personal life. In the late 1980s, Michael was linked to Kathy Jung, a Chinese-American makeup artist who even appeared in his provocative music video, "I Want Your Sex." Later, he admitted she had been his only girlfriend, a relationship that existed at a time when he was still grappling with his own identity. Everything changed in 1991, when George met Anselmo Filippa at the Rock in Rio concert. It was love at first sight, but their happiness was short-lived. Just 6 months into the relationship, Filippa learned that he was HIV positive. By 1993, Anselmo had died of an AIDS-related brain hemorrhage. The loss devastated Michael, leaving a scar that never fully healed. His grief poured into his music. The haunting ballad Jesus to a Child and the reflective album Older were both tributes to Anselmo's memory, turning personal sorrow into universal art. Seeking companionship, Michael later entered a long-term relationship with Kenny Goss, an art dealer and heir to a sportswear fortune. The two were together from 1996 to 2009, and though reports circulated in 2005 that they planned to formalize their union, the pressures of Michael's public life and controversies around his image delayed those plans. By 2009, their relationship had ended, leaving behind another chapter of longing and heartbreak. Michael's sexuality became public in 1998, but not in the way he would have chosen. After being arrested for public lewdness in Los Angeles, the incident forced him to come out as gay. Years later, he reflected that hiding his orientation had made him feel fake, and that the arrest itself was, in some ways, a subconscious act of liberation. While the scandal shocked the world, it also freed him from secrecy, allowing him to live more openly in the years that followed. In 2012, George began a new relationship with Fadi Fawaz, a Lebanese-Australian hairstylist and photographer. It was Fawaz who would tragically find him lifeless at his Goring-on-Thames home on Christmas morning in 2016. Their relationship, though often complicated and publicly scrutinized, was part of Michael's final chapter. The tragedies didn't end with him. In 2019, George's beloved sister Melanie passed away, eerily on the very same date, 3 years after his death. Her loss underscored the profound grief that continued to shadow the family. And it was not just love and loss that defined his story. His health battles and untimely death revealed another layer of the challenges he faced, both publicly and privately. Health and death. Like many artists who lived under relentless pressure, he turned to substances as both an escape and a coping mechanism. His long battle with cannabis and sleeping pills became public knowledge, and between 2006 and 2010, he was arrested several times for drug-related offenses. On a 2007 appearance on BBC Radio 4's Desert Island Discs, he admitted candidly that he wished he could cut down, acknowledging the battle he faced against dependency. Health scares soon followed. In October 2011, during his Symphonica tour, Michael fell gravely ill and was rushed to Vienna General Hospital after experiencing chest pains. Diagnosed with a severe case of pneumonia, he spent weeks in intensive care, even falling into a coma. Doctors performed a tracheotomy to save his life. Miraculously, he recovered, later holding a press conference to thank the medical staff and promising them a free concert as gratitude. That episode left him with lingering concerns, including a temporary change in his accent that baffled fans and doctors alike. But fate was not done testing him. In 2013, he was involved in a car accident on the M1 motorway near St. Albans, suffering head injuries that required him to be airlifted to hospital. Though he recovered quickly, the incident added another chapter to the long list of health scares that marked his final decade. Then came the most shocking moment of all. In the early hours of Christmas Day 2016, George Michael died peacefully in his bed at his home in Goring-on-Thames, aged just 53. He was discovered by his partner, Fadi Fawaz. After months of speculation, a coroner confirmed the cause as natural, a combination of dilated cardiomyopathy, myocarditis, and fatty liver disease. The world had lost one of its most distinctive voices, and the timing, on Christmas Day, the very holiday tied to one of his most enduring songs, made the loss even more poignant. His funeral was delayed while the cause of death was investigated, but on 29 March 2017, he was laid to rest in a private ceremony at Highgate Cemetery in North London, buried next to his mother's grave. Tributes poured in from around the world. Elton John, speaking in Las Vegas, described him as one of the kindest, sweetest, most generous people he had ever met. His legacy has since been celebrated in many ways. A mural in his hometown of Brent unveiled in 2020, honoring him as a cultural and LGBTQ+ pioneer, and in 2024, the Royal Mint issued a collectible coin featuring Michael in his trademark sunglasses, a permanent reminder of his place in British cultural history. George Michael's passing closed a chapter, but it also sealed his immortality. His music still echoes, His generosity continues to inspire, and his story remains a mix of brilliance and fragility that fans will never forget. And as we close this journey through his life, his homes, his fortune, and his struggles, it is time to reflect on what remains, the enduring message and legacy of George Michael. If you also want to continue the journey of discovering music legends, please subscribe, because every house and every story is a chapter of history that needs to be told.